I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go. I'm Dr. Barry.
Helps if you have the mic right here. I'm Dr. Barry, and I appreciate you all requesting this topic. Somebody asked me to talk about RaptureTok, and this is a great question. Did people actually think they would be raptured? I thought it was a joke. So there were people that legit believed this prophecy from this guy. And so there is a South African man, and I'm going to have difficulty saying his last name. And I have a clip that I want to show because he has not admitted that he was wrong. So there were people that gave their children. There was one person, according to TikTok. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's one person that said that they were going to give their children to CPS because they thought they were going to be raptured, which I thought was odd because it was like you thought your children would be left and you were going to be raptured. There was one man that sold his car because he believed that this was coming. So there were some people that legit truly believed that this was coming despite. So for individuals that are Christians, there are scriptures that say no man knows the day or the hour. So every person that comes forward and says, I know God told me that on this day, this is the day that Jesus is coming back. That's what rapture is. Like it's a whole. When I was a kid, I remember watching the Left Behind series. There's a lot of fear and things that can be under this. I'm not getting into the theology of it. We're just talking about this from a psychological perspective. And then also the perspective of this that individuals that do these types of things, that, in my personal opinion, that engage in behavior that, because a true prophet, they would come forward and say like, oops, my assumption was wrong, that must not have been God, like I got this wrong. There are people that if they do make some type of prediction, not about the end of the world, but like if they make some type of prediction and it doesn't come true, they will be honest and they will come forward and they will like they'll acknowledge it. This guy has not done this at all. And so what does it mean to be raptured? Okay. And then, so I'm not going to get into the theology of it, but so what the people believe is they literally believe that Jesus is going to come back and that there will be chosen people that are taken up to heaven. And then the people that are left will endure a lot of suffering. I did see like a pastor on TikTok talk about like that type of theology did not come up, the rapture. So rapture is not in the Bible. Like there's nothing in the Bible about rapture. Like somebody in the 19th century, I think, like this is a word that people came up with. And in my experience, it's often been used to instill like fear. Like that's what, and that's often how I've seen it used. And then their whole, like there was a movie series called Left Behind, and it's about like what happens to the. So I wouldn't recommend. Uh, uh, I might have to do a whole separate video if I get the time. I might have to talk about videos that like traumatize me as a child, but all right. Yes. All right. And so with this situation with RaptureTok, and it's made it into Wikipedia. Like this was such a big thing. There are thousands of videos, I think hundreds of thousands on video on TikTok with the trend, with the hashtag RaptureTok. Now, some people were calling it out as being like, some people were laughing or mocking the people that believed it, and so I didn't hear about it before it happened. So I didn't hear the people that were prepping for this specific day in September. I did not hear about that one. What I saw was, I saw Kev on stage post a song that said, "I'm still here." Like, so the song was "I'm Still Here." And so I saw the after effect of people, and a lot of it was jokes, no lie. A lot of what showed up on my feed was that aspect of it. And so let me just get some additional information. And so there were people that truly believed that the world was going to end sometime between the 23rd and the 24th of September. And we're currently on September 30th. And so this guy, and it's Malakia. It's Mhlakela. So I think he's a South African pastor, Joshua Makala. And so I told y'all I was going to mess up his last name. He insists that the rapture is going to happen any day now. And so this day has come and went. He actually did a 12-hour live stream that, if you want to go down a deep dive, you can. You definitely can. Hey mama, my real life mama. But you don't have to watch the live stream. But so they're on the live stream, and nothing happened, because they're thinking they're gonna record this miracle, and at midnight, or like at a certain time, they're all going to be called up to be with Jesus. And there are a lot of people that end up mocking Christianity because of things like this, which was why I wanted to talk about it. And so it's a belief not explicitly found in the Bible, and so that believers will ascend to heaven to meet Jesus in the end of days. And like I said, there were people that sold their possessions. There were people that were preparing their homes for the people that would be left behind. There are a bunch of people that bought things to prepare. It reminds me of like doomsday preppers. And and in the past, there have been multiple false prophecies, people predicting the end of the world. One of the most popular was the one where they thought they were going to like catch a spaceship, and it ended up being a mass, like, so they ended up taking themselves out. Like, they took poison because they thought they were going to like that they thought they were going to meet God on a spaceship. And so in my opinion, that was a cult. Okay. And so when we talk about false prophecies, let's talk about spiritual harm, because my belief is that these false prophecies, they attempt to manipulate, control, and exploit others, and for various reasons. So this guy, so the Joshua, and y'all know me in names, that pastor Malakala, he didn't gain anything personally besides maybe some followers on TikTok and maybe his social media, and people know his name. People are talking about him and sharing his videos, but he wasn't saying, "Give to me financially so that this can happen." And so there wasn't a financial gain, but for me as an outsider looking at it, there does seem to be some manipulation and control, because there's some people that don't, that when somebody says they've heard from God, there are some people that will automatically believe them. Okay. And I think my mom has had somebody, so when I, probably like 30 years ago, My mom had somebody come up to her and was like, "I've seen your husband. God showed me your husband. I know who he's going to be." And the person tried to like prophesy or speak over my mom's life that like you are going to marry this person. And my mom's like, "God didn't tell me none of that." And like it never happened. Like nobody no. And uh when okay, so I will tell y'all the story of how I met my husband. It's kind of a cute story. Today is his birthday. We've already celebrated his birthday. We did that on Saturday. Uh, and so his cousin went to my church, and his cousin talked to my mom and was like, "Hey, God told me to like introduce like back in January." So this was December. So his cousin went up to my mom around December and was like, "God told me back in January to just introduce Patrice to my cousin Lamar." And but like I don't like just intro like I'm not saying, I'm just saying like it put it on my heart. If Patrice is interested in meeting somebody, I know a really great guy. And they ran down like not his exact but like they were like he's come from a good family. Like they ran down all the details and was just like he's an aerospace engineer. Like he graduated Virginia Tech, which I graduated from Virginia Tech too. So there were all these things. And I had a bad experience on eHarmony. So I had tried online dating, never really met anyone in person, but I was like, yeah, I'm open to meeting somebody. But when I met him, I was still skeptical. Okay. So even though somebody else that I cared about, even though my mom, like everybody was like, ooh, like if this worked out, that would be really cool. But like when I met him, I still got to choose for myself. Nobody else was saying, like, you have to, like, God said, y'all are supposed to be together. Like, y'all have to be together. No. Mama had questions, okay? Because even when that person came up to so if the person had come up to my mom and was like, "I know this great guy, but he's unemployed. He has 5 kids." My mom would have been like, "No." Like, "I don't care who told you. That wasn't my." I don't. So my mom was very picky when it came to me. And so people have to think. And sometimes spiritual communities, whatever spiritual community it is, it can become a cult if people aren't encouraged to think for themselves. And some of the dangerous words is like God said. So somebody saying God, so like, because sometimes the person saying God said, it's almost like don't question it. And that can come with harm if that isn't a safe person. And so let me go back to some of my notes. And so there can be financial exploitation with false prophecies. That does not seem to have happened in this situation, but sometimes there have been other situations where followers were encouraged to give large sums of money to the individual. There can also be fear mongering where there's this false prophecy about an apocalyptic type event, this catastrophe, and in order to coerce followers into obedience. It can also create this dependency, a false prophecy, like I can't hear from God, I'm dependent on you to tell me all the things, and to now that it hasn't come true, you now need to explain to me what happened. And the individual, he went on a podcast, that pastor Joshua. And the podcast pushed back because he went on the podcast after September 23rd, 24th, when and the podcast was like, "Hey, we're all still here." And he tries to rationalize it. He tries to say, "Oh no, like we were looking at the calendar wrong. The new date is in October. So this is a real thing." Okay? So it's a real thing that the new date is supposed to be in October. And I do not believe this at all. Okay? But we will watch a clip because there's a lady on TikTok. I will say her username. It is Jubilee Dawns. I'm gonna play her video. Uh, so I'm gonna play this. Let me make sure. All right, so let's play this.
And you might think that the pastor who gave the original prophecy that it was going to be on September 23rd was wrong, but you would be wrong because he was actually right all along. And I know what you're thinking. How could that be? You did not see any bodies flying towards the sky on September 23rd. Well, it is because we were using the wrong calendar. Jesus doesn't know that we changed our calendar, and we should have.
So, and she's using sarcasm. Okay. So anybody that's new to this, so this individual, Jubilee Dawns, she's using sarcasm to explain what's happening. But he did come out with a new date. So that is true. And she's going to show a clip from that podcast where he gives a new date.
Been using the Julian calendar because that is the calendar that they used back in the day. So it is now rescheduled to October 6th to 7th.
That calendar is behind by 13 days.
Now, Percy is very relieved because he was very stressed out about this. He thought that God had spoken to him directly and that it was going to be on September 23rd, but now it all makes sense. And he is not alone. There are a lot of people who are coming back online and saying that they are sure this time.
Because when he was on the earth, the Julian calendar was the calendar they followed. So he is going to come back on the Feast of Trumpets on the Julian calendar.
Here's where I have some disappointing news. The guy that sold his car and said that he was no longer going to talk about the rapture publicly, he has pretty much walked that back at this point. He has been making a lot of videos about the rapture. And while he has not said that it will be on October 6th or 7th, he is liking a bunch of comments and kind of being like wink, wink about it because he said he wasn't going to say the exact date, but he is saying it without saying it.
I got my shofar yesterday. Jesus is coming very, very soon. If you know, you know. Wink, wink.
So it looks like we are going to get to do all of this again very soon, and I will keep you updated on any rapture
news. Okay. And so I liked her quick overview. And so that was a real clip from the podcast that he was on. I saw another person do a longer video showing more clips from that podcast. I did not find the original podcast, but the women that had him on their podcast to kind of talk about like, hey, what happened, and to almost give him a chance to clear the air. And they laughed at him when he gave a new date. They, like, one of them, I think she rolled her eyes and was like, what the, like dude, how, like, just admit you were wrong. Just admit that God didn't tell you when the end is, because that's not even biblical. For people that do believe in God, for people that do believe in Jesus, it's in the Bible that if, like, it's just, because this is bad. This is bad. This is really, really bad. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it, because there are people in general, so people can be susceptible to this and it can have a damaging impact. So for some people that originally believed him or that believed in a false prophecy, there can be an erosion of faith where they can it can impact their trust in any type of spiritual leadership. There can be a lot of spiritual disillusionment and confusion. So I watch Megan Connor's YouTube channel. She is the cousin to Lori. What was her original name? Lori, I don't want to say Lori Cox. So she is a cousin to her, and she has talked a lot about coming out of the Mormon faith and just how that impacted her spiritually. And so there can be anxiety, depression, and guilt from believing this, or for if people think that they failed to live up to the prophet's demand. So I think we're all aware that, like, hey, nobody did anything wrong, because there were some people that were probably scared when they woke up and they like, was I not good enough for God? Or then they realized, oh, nobody was raptured. The end of the world didn't happen. And it can just be very confusing for people. There can be damaged critical thinking skills due to the manipulation tactics and confirmation bias and peer pressure. So once you're in this kind of rapture belief group, sometimes it can be hard to leave that group. And so that's why I wanted to do that video, just in case somebody that truly did believe it. So I don't want anybody can fall for a false belief. And so I see news articles, especially on Facebook. It's been really bad, where there have been a lot of bad actors posting fake images. I was recently talking about a tragedy that happened, and there was a ton of misinformation about the particular incident, and so there's just a lot of that, and people can believe things that they hear if they don't check it. And so it's really, really important to check those things. People can leave their jobs, their relationships, and then find out that everything was false. And so there can be a lot of negative feelings that come up after all of this. And so I did also want to talk about the types of people that are most likely to engage in this type of behavior. So there are authoritarian pastors. So authoritarian is where I'm the boss and y'all can't tell me nothing. Nobody can tell me anything. It's my way or the highway. And they try to say it's like God's way, like God's talking to me, and that but nobody else can check me. Nobody else can speak into what I'm saying or correct me. And that is a red flag. If there's a spiritual leader that's not accepting correction from others, or that can't be called out by others, that is a huge red flag. And so authoritarian is where like it's my way or no way. It's very rules based, but it's like the person's rules, and it often is self-serving, but that's just a whole other conversation. With these types of leaders, there can be behavioral control, where they micromanage the lives of their followers. They discourage questions, so any questioning of any beliefs is seen as a lack of faith or an act of rebellion against God, and that's a red flag. Like if I can't ask a question, like wait a minute, but doesn't the Bible say this, or is this what you like? This was how I heard this. That doesn't seem consistent with what I've read. And secure pastors encourage their congregation to think, and that hey, we might not agree on everything, and that each person is allowed to have the relationship that they have. But yeah, that's a whole yeah. And then authoritarian pastors can use guilt and shame or fear mongering to coerce members into compliance. Often there can be narcissistic features. I'm not saying that's what's happening in this situation, but it's very common for people that try to start a cult or that have culty, high demand type characteristics. There's often some narcissism, because for a person to be like, God told me and nobody else can tell me anything, it takes a certain level of grandiosity to do that. To be like, nobody else. I'm the only one that heard this. I'm the only one that knows. Nobody else can tell me anything. There's a little bit of grandiosity with that. Um, no need. So like there's a part of this that is, so it's sad, but like it's a little comic, because like, but I want to provide a safe space for like, hey, if somebody did believe it, that they don't feel bad, because I do think that the people at the top, so the people that put these messages out there in such a way that encourages manipulation, fear, and it's coming off in this way. So that's why I want to teach about the tactics that people use in these types of situations. Okay. So there is often a grandiosity. They act as if they're more in tune with God than anyone else, and they portray themselves as like they are, I don't know, like nobody else hears what they hear, and nobody else can say what they're saying. Nobody else knows what they know. There's often a lack of accountability. They surround themselves with yes people, and there's no tolerance for any criticism. When challenged, they often deny wrongdoing, blame others, and retaliate against their accusers. And then there's often exploitation, where which can be motivated, and not always, but I'm just saying in general for issues like this, where they use their followers to acquire wealth, power, or fame. And often they're charismatic. So often people that draw people in, they often have a charm. They're often persuasive. There's often an emotional appeal to them. And they often use spirituality to try to have control over their members' lives. There's often love bombing in situations like this, where new recruits, new people to the group are showered with excessive attention and praise to create that emotional bond, that then makes it that makes it difficult for those people to leave later. There's often isolation and shunning, where people are encouraged to, hey, if somebody speaks against this, cut them off. Don't talk to them. Do not tolerate any voices that aren't ours. Which is that's a problem. That's a really big problem, where leaving the group is heavily penalized. So if you ever decide to leave the group, you're often shunned and publicly shamed. And then there's often this confirmation bias, where as humans, we tend to seek out information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. And then we might ignore information or dismiss information that's contrary to those beliefs. Okay. There can also be prophetic manipulators, where there are these vague prophecies, um, general statements that can easily be interpreted as fulfilled, exploiting confirmation bias, and there can be fear-based predictions. All right. So I do want to talk about a guy that was arrested, a guy and a woman. So trigger warnings for spiritual harm. So trigger warnings for this one. So it is the case out of, there were multiple data centers. So so that was the second case that was pictured on this thumbnail. We are gonna hop right into hearing this one.
Yeah, Haley, and these neighbors were absolutely stunned by what went on this morning. Neighbors in this community, they woke up to helicopters and FBI agents raiding a home in Avila. And once they found out why those federal agents were there, it was even more surprising.
Some of you say, I don't have 100,000, but you have 20,000. You have 50,000 here.
So this is, and y'all know me in names. I want to say David, but y'all know I can't be trusted to remember a name correctly. Yes, David Taylor. He was arrested, and I believe I put a link to the Department of Justice because him and his co-founder, so Michelle Brannon, both of them were arrested. One was in North Carolina and one of them was in Florida. And it was a forced labor operation. I will say that again. So they were disguising a church, but like what was really happening is that people were being forced to be in call centers for free for hours and hours, like to volunteer their time to collect what ended up with millions of dollars. And if you didn't raise enough money, you could be forced to stay up all night. Like there would be punishments if people did not raise enough money. People were also cut off from their families, and there are alleged victims that have come forward to talk about what happened with this. So this was a federal, like he's been arrested on federal crimes and charged with human, like trafficking. So human, that word, and so money laundering and people were compelled to work as armor bearers, but they served his personal demands around the clock. And once again, there was no choice. People were forced to do this. There were also women so trigger warnings for SA, for trigger warnings for like bad, yes. So there were women that were transported between ministry houses, airports, and other locations. And then the armor bearer would be told to make sure that the woman took emergency contraceptive, like as they were taking her back to, I guess, the airport or wherever they were taking the woman back to. He received millions of dollars in donations each year through the call center, and so the charges are conspiracy to commit forced labor, and then actually charged with forced labor. And then there were some additional charges as well. So I will let this continue to play. Make myself small. All right, let's go.
You have 10,000.
That's video of David Taylor asking viewers to send money to his church. Federal authorities now say Taylor used donations to fund an extravagant lifestyle that included this massive mansion.
Huge. Okay, so y'all, so he was even hiding the fraud. Like the fraud is like, and he probably called it a nonprofit, but normally like nonprofits have to, like, you can't do this as like so I think he was using all the money for himself. Like that's the allegation from the feds. Okay.
In Tampa's affluent Avila community, FBI agents raided the home Wednesday morning.
It's very surprising to hear that type of thing was going on again right in your backyard.
It's unclear what authorities took from the home.
There were multiple cars. Okay. I saw a different streamer cover this one, and they went over. So there were multiple Bentleys, multiple I think there were like more than 10. There were a whole bunch of cars.
From Skyfox shows several cars lined up with gift bows on top. Neighbors say the 10-bedroom, 10.5 bathroom, 28,000 square foot mansion is one of the largest in Avila.
Because there was like, how could a pastor afford to live in a house like that?
According to the 23-page federal indictment, this house is one of several properties throughout the country purchased by Taylor's Kingdom of God Global Church.
Because I do believe this investigation spans three different states. I love cars too, but I don't I don't cause people to work for me for free to like get donations from strangers to then buy the cars. And so the gift bows, it's just weird. It's very, very odd. And so I like talking about high demand or high control groups. And if you know somebody that's kind of like, oh, their church kind of doesn't sound like you can disagree. It sounds like there's an issue. Never, ever, ever tell somebody, I think you're in a cult, because they're going to shut you down. So nobody looks to join. Normally, most people, they don't look to join a cult. Normally, what happens is somebody is looking for spiritual healing. They're looking for spiritual guidance. They have this hole in their heart. They're looking to get sober. There's some need that this group is meeting, and then they don't realize how much control the group has over them. So I really like reframing it as high demand or high control group, because if I say like, hey, it seems like they control every aspect, like I'm just planting seeds. Because one of the worst things you can do is be like, hey, I think you're in a cult, because then that person, they're probably never going to talk to you again, or they're going to try to like prove that they're not in a cult. And so yeah. Yeah. No. And so I used to sell Cutco cutlery, Cutco knives. Okay. And the belief and joy that I had from selling these knives. So MLMs are sometimes run a bit, and I don't know, so they probably say they're not an MLM, but it was kind of like you try to get other if there aren't sales reps under you. So it wasn't technically, there wasn't a pyramid, but you sold to people that you knew. and then you tried to get more people that you could sell. Like it was door to door selling knives, but to people it wasn't knocking on random doors, but it was, and so my mom was a little concerned about how much I absolutely adored Cutco cutlery. And she has the box set, like with the 12. So her and my dad were, I think, two of my best customers that bought some some amazing things. They really are amazing. But like it was and when we went to training events, or when we the boss, I think one time I got to like go out on, like we had like a work event where we went out on a boat. It was super cool. But there, thankfully, I've never joined like a cult, but I have been in groups that, like, looking back, it was like, oh, we all kind of thought alike. We all kind of like, there wasn't a lot of disagreement in this group. So Cutco knives are amazing. Mama's telling on me. No joke. She forced me to buy it. They really are good knives. They really are good. You have cut, so like we cut knives, and so I don't laugh about this to make fun of it. They really are, and I think my mom bought like the $700. So like it is, my mom bought the expensive set. Like her set was probably like almost $1,000. I'm sorry, Mama. She bought the really expensive set. I got a commission on it, but yeah, she bought the expensive set. Um, and great product, kind of interesting business model. Kind of thrive off college students that maybe it was not, maybe. So like, because you could not, I think it was Henkel, like there's a type of knife that starts with a H. It was like you can't like this one. So my love for Virginia Tech is a little bit like, not, but like I really, really love Virginia Tech. When I have clients that are like, I'm thinking about going to Tech, I get so excited. And I've had clients go to UVA, which is our nemesis, but like it's fine. And our football team is not doing great this year. We might actually lose to UVA this year. I hope we don't. We have not lost in football to UVA in so long. So long. And so like sometimes sports groups can kind of feel a little bit like, oh, we all kind of think alike, but like, and so with spiritual things, people can fall into all thinking the same thing, believing the same thing. And if you're in a group where you're not able to think for yourself, if you're not able to encourage, like if you're not able to ask questions, if you're not able to disagree. So my church encourages us thinking. Like, and so my pastor is actually one of the ones that says two of the scariest words is God said. Like he's the one that says that. He's like, it's not my job to tell you what to think. It's my job to get you to think. And people are able to think different things. We don't all have to think the same thing. And I think that ends up being a healthier community. Shani. So, there is a possibility of a government shutdown. And if that happens, I can do a coping video. I can do that tomorrow. So I will schedule it. So I'll go live tomorrow around 8:30. Hopefully we'll see what happens. But there is a good chance. So I'll do like a coping video if that does happen. I work with a lot of federal workers. I work with people that will still have to work even if the government shuts down. If you are traveling, if the government does shut down and you are traveling, I would go early because TSA workers, they will still be required to come to work, but they won't get paid until the funding bill passes. And so the last time this happened, if it lasts longer than like a week, sometimes people start to call in sick. Like sometimes there start to be staffing issues, and so just take care of yourself. We will definitely talk about that. Rivalries are great, but yes. So yeah, so we will see. We will see. I hope you all drink your water, go outside. Uh Yeah. Yeah. So Lisa, it's tonight. If they don't pass a funding bill by tonight, and right now there are arguments over access with healthcare from things that were passed. And so the last shutdown was 35. Oh, did it shut down 35 days ago? So I didn't even realize. I didn't even realize. So I remember the last big shutdown was right after my wedding. So I think it was 2013 because I think we were on our honeymoon or we were about to go on our honeymoon. I'm like, it is what it is. I do believe if anything does happen, I think the next paycheck, because people will get paid through the 30th, but then they won't get paid until funding is passed, like after that. And so there's a lot. Oh, are you a Hampton person? Fab at 40. Anyone who attends Howard. So are you Hampton? So I grew up in Hampton Roads. And so I know about the real HU. Or is it a different rivalry? Um autocorrect is adding a word for you. So and then I would make sure to call to make sure that there isn't any misinformation. So I believe that um and the last time I checked, I believe things wouldn't be impacted. Okay, so there must have been. I'm almost positive there was a shut. Maybe it was. I'm almost positive there was a shutdown in 2013. I could be wrong. Let me Google it real quick. We have time. Shutdown. Yep, it was October 1st through the 17th. And I got married. So I think I got married on the 3rd, on the 5th. My husband knows. Like it's either the 3rd or the 5th. I don't know. I think it was, honestly, I don't remember. It's either the 3rd or the 5th. We have 2 dates that we celebrate, one in September and one in October. The big party was in October. And I don't know, but we're going on. Yeah. Yep. So there was one. I just Googled it. It was October 1st through the 17th. And we were on our honeymoon. So it was before our wedding, through our honeymoon. And my husband was a federal worker. He had already put his leave in. He was essential at the time. I think he was working. I forget where he was working, but whatever job he had, he was essential, and so he did still have to go into the office until funding was passed, and so yeah. All right. Thank you, Mama. And I think that's nope, because I had Langston in 2017, so you were not working for the federal government. Ah. I encouraged my mom to retire after and be my childcare after I had our son. Thank you. Happy early wedding anniversary. Your 10th wedding anniversary is in a couple of weeks. Amanda, I hope you and your partner, your spouse, have a great anniversary. I think that's awesome. And so I will share this. I haven't seen it. There's a video. I know you're hurting. I will have to check that out. Ah, the 5th is your daughter's 22nd birthday. I'll have to ask my husband when we got married. I don't. He doesn't mind. He knows I get the date wrong. It's either the 3rd or the 5th. I don't remember. It's one of those two. Okay. I appreciate you all. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Don't join any cults, okay? Nobody's gonna know, like if they're so the whole do not get caught up on RaptureTok, okay? That's not a thing. And my heart goes out to the people that truly believe it and that do things to prepare for it. Unfortunately, they aren't always open to hearing other perspectives. And so that's why I tried to do a video in a way where if for some reason somebody that believed it did watch this, they wouldn't feel like they were being judged. Okay. So hopefully you all heard there is no judgment. The person that I get mad at is is it Joshua, is the person that's being the false prop, like the person that's sharing the message the wrong way and that won't just admit I was wrong. Okay. Like that's the person that I'm like, dude, just say you were wrong. Because there was another like guy that I like, I think pastor or preacher or prophet that believes some of this. And he apologized to his followers. He apologized to his community. He was like, I got it wrong. Like that was my own thoughts, my own stuff got in the way, and that wasn't God. And he came forward and apologized. And I think that's incredibly humble. I think that's really positive. I don't think that's going to happen in this situation. I'm sorry. The guy's probably going to move it to next year. Like it's I think he's going to keep going with it. Don't watch any of his videos, okay? Don't do it. Please stay away. Stay off of that side of TikTok, and I will see y'all next time. Have a good one. Bye.